Hey guys, Chris here from Carolot Farm. Today is a really big day. We are preparing to welcome a new mini to the farm tomorrow, which means I have a lot of things to do, to plan, to prep so that tomorrow goes as smooth as possible. When I bring a horse to the farm initially, I most prefer to have them in my wood fencing area. I have wood fencing around my barnyard, around my grass ring, which is where Rocky and Shenanigans currently are, as well as my front fields where Timber and Lady reside. My backfield, however, where Sweetheart is currently turned out, as well as a lower paddock I'm resting, have the white electric polywire. And to me, those are not as ideal for a brand new horse just settling in. You can see, however, my ring, as well as my barnyard and some of my other paddocks are very overgrown with weeds. Two silly boys. Somebody kicked the fence and startled the other. But what I was saying is I do want to mow my fields and paddocks today, get all those weeds knocked down, and then this will be one of the more ideal places for Kevin and the boys to mingle as they start to really settle in, form those friendships before I think I will then eventually move them to the back field, which is where Sweetheart is. So there's going to be some moving around of horses here and there, but I think that the ring and the barnyard are the two best places to first settle Kevin in tomorrow. Another reason the barnyard and that front grass ring are so ideal is although there is grass, there's not a ton of grass. And because Kevin has largely been in a dry lot for the last few months, we want to slowly introduce him to the grass so as not to overtax his system. Not only do I need to mow my ring and my other paddocks and fields, I need to move my hay storage. This is where I've been storing my extra bales that didn't quite fit in the hay barn. I don't want them to get wet and rained on, so I have to find a safe place to keep them dry so they don't spoil. But I do want to be able to open up the second stall so that Kevin, Rocky, and Shenanigans, once they're merged, have more than enough room to spread out. I think one stall is a little too tight given the fact that they don't yet know each other well, and I don't know how well they're going to get along. I think eventually they will get along very well and they could totally share one 12 by 12 stall. But for right now, I want to make sure there's more than enough room, which means I do have to move my hay to another safe place. I do want to clarify one thing I mentioned. 3 horses, 3 minis that is, in a 12 by 12 stall. I would never enclose 3 minis in a 12 by 12 stall, but I think if it were used as a run-in shelter with the door wide open, or even better yet, an open run-in with that whole open sidewall, I think that would be perfectly ideal, assuming they all get along. What happens if they don't all get along, or if one horse is a super dominant alpha? Sometimes there can be one horse that's just left outside for fear of coming in, and that's never good. So again, if you have multiple horses in a somewhat small run-in situation, make sure they get along well enough so that one horse isn't always that last man out. That is a trouble that I did run into with Lady and Sweetheart, which is why I have chosen to separate them, and they are not in a shared run-in situation because poor Lady would just stand out in the rain or the snow. So she's very happy now. She has her own run-in, but you do have to watch their dynamics to make sure that multiple horses can satisfactorily share a smaller space such as this. My kitty cat, Frankie, he's never far. What I was gonna say, all of this to say I need to have 2 stalls open because I don't yet know how well these 3 boys will get along. So to be safe, I need more than enough room because you never want to be sorry and be underprepared. Another reason for opening that second stall for the 3rd mini to share is I do tend to feed my hay in the corners of my stalls when possible, or run-in shelters. That way the wind does not blow it around and it does not get wet should we have inclement weather. And as you see here, in a 12 by 12 stall, my 2 little boys, who get along very well, are standing here with their rear ends together. I think a 3rd horse in the mix would just be asking for trouble. Now that I have the horses settled and eating their hay, I want to turn my attention to mowing. This is something I definitely want to do before little Kevin arrives tomorrow. Before I mow, I do want to pick though. It's never fun to mow through piles of manure. Believe it or not, this is the second time I've had to mow this particular field. In the last month or two, June was really hot and dry here in Virginia, but July has been very wet, and so things are growing quite rapidly, most especially the weeds. Our first turnout area has now fully been mowed, looking a lot better. Here is another look. Things are fairly green, I will say that, and although there are tufts of grass that look very lush like this, there are also areas that are very sparse, and the horses are chasing these little teeny tender tips. So Sweetheart here, I'm gonna say she's the more emotional mare on the farm. Doesn't take a whole lot to get her excited, but she's gonna hang out here in the barnyard while I mow her field, and the boys will stay in the front ring. As you can see here, I did mow the barnyard, so 2 paddocks down, 1 more to go. As I'm working to mow this back field, I am also taking this opportunity to inspect the fencing. I want to make sure that all of the wires are in good working order, all of the insulators are in place, that there are not any tall weeds or branches that are leaning on the fencing, shorting it out. You want to do this regularly, but especially before new horses enter the farm or you start moving horses into different paddocks. So now that we have finished mowing our fields and our paddocks, and I have removed the hay bales and stored them elsewhere, so I now have 2 stalls open, and they will be able to serve as the run-in shelters for those 3 boys just as soon as they're merged, hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow if all goes well. A few of the final tasks for the day are filling water tubs to make sure each paddock has clean water. I'll want to make sure that the truck and trailer are hooked up and ready to go so that I can get an early start to the day before things get too hot. The last thing on my to-do list is to put a little halter in my truck and trailer, and that will be ready for Kevin. This used to be Shenanigans halter. When I first adopted him, he was very little, and he's grown quite a bit in the last year and a half. He's actually outgrown his pink halter, and so I think this will be just the right size for Kevin because, as you will see, Kevin is very, very teeny. He will for sure be the smallest mini on the farm. I think this will be just perfect. In planning for a new horse's arrival, you need to take into consideration food, water, shelter, and potential pasture mates. Now that we've done just that and we've checked everything off the list, I feel very good knowing that we are in a wonderful place to receive little Kevin tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you're curious to see how tomorrow goes when little Kevin officially arrives here on the farm, check back because we'll for sure be putting a video out in the coming days for that. Have a great rest of your day, and we hope to see you in the future. Bye, guys.